Yes, I and Shalom Rastafari, Shuwindam Raz Baruku Teferi. And we were looking into this Torah portion, Noah. And the first word in this Torah portion, Noah, is Selaziach. And when we were going through to look up this word, we it was a blessing. We give thanks to the Almighty. We got to see that, in the Hebrew, we were showing that on the on the groups earlier, we were showing the relation or the relative particle in the Hebrew in this Afro-Shemitic linguistic, and beginning to understand more or comprehending more the Afro-Shemitic linguistic and how Hebrew is, Hebrew is a relative language of the pure language of the King of Kings, QEDAMAWI, HAILE, SELASSIE. So in our tracing in this, so when we put Selaziach, it is found in two places. Well, specifically this way, okay, because we had a kind of doubled there, the form. Okay, bring it back. All right, so it's found in two places. Okay, in Mateos Wingil, Matthew 24:36, and Matthew 13:32. So we wanted to get the Hebrew form and get a Hebrew relative, the relative word in the Hebrew, or relative words, because many a times it's not just one word from the Hebrew that is relative to that word. It may be more than one word, though that when we trace, we're able to see, and then we can take, okay, that's what we're going to do right there. Right. So now when we trace, it takes us back to Orit Zefiteret, Genesis 2:24. Go to Genesis 2:24, and we see the word here is therefore. Therefore, shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave to his wife, which is the church, and they shall be ahad basar. Now, why this verse? Because this is the verse that when we trace the word Selaziach, okay, we trace the word Selaziach, we come to the two verses that it specifically in this way that is written, Selaziach, with the yach particle attached to the Selazi. Now, and it brings us to two places in the New Testament. So to trace it further, now when we didn't do, and we'll do in a moment, is with the yad, or without the yach, because we're going to do Selazia. But what we did was we did Selazi. Actually, it might be, let I and I try that. Let's try Selazia, and we're gonna see where that, with the yad, because actually we just had thought about that right now before we had posted on the app. And sometimes we like to, oh wow, okay, so now this is just, this is new for the eye, and matter of fact, we'll have to go back and re-note that. Selaziyad with the yad is Orit Zelawawiyan 6 and 7. So here in the pure language, kahinum begizya bihir fet, as in fanim, the face, yastir yeletal, selaziyam saladregu bedele hulu yakar yibalal, and go to the word in the King James. Oh, look at that, there's a 7-7 code there. And the priest shall make an atonement. Okay, so it brings us to speaking of the atonement, make an atonement. The kafar wasn't the rabbi. Speaking of the kafar, the rebbe, bless, was he speaking of the kafar just the other day on the radio? And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Yahweh, before the Adonai. Let's see specifically the Yahweh, and it shall be forgiven him for anything of all that he had done in trespassing therein. So, okay. So Selassie Yad with the Yad brings us back to atonement. Atonement. So this is very interesting because Yom Kippur, and in this New Testament verse in Matthew 24:36, in this Torah portion of Noah, we know that the floods of Noah came. Remember the floods of Noah came? So this atonement for one soul over here in Leviticus chapter 6 and 7, verse 7. And what we'll do is we'll have to go get the whole of that. We'll have to get the entirety of that verse, you know, because that's important right there. Let's see if we can. We'll have to go over to the entirety of that verse so we can get the full comprehension of what is being said right here in Matthew 24:36. You know, where Jesus Christ says, "But of that day and hour," you know, and that Yom Kippur being seen as judgment day, the day of Adonai, you know, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of the Shemayim, but my Father only. So in that sense, you know, I and I still, we must be prepared. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. You know how it was in the days of Noah, and that he explains, for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, idling, marrying and giving in marriage until the day of Noah, till the day that Noah entered the ark, the Taba'at, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, and the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the upper and lower millstone. The one shall be taken and the other left. Okay, so as a matter of fact, we don't want to go, let me see, 36 through, okay, it was 46, okay, because we didn't want to go further than the Torah portion. So two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, watch, and you know this preparedness that he tells us to have. Watch this preparedness. Giatachehu bemin sa'at. That's interesting now. Okay, because now we found another relative particle in the pure language of the King of Kings that is also relative to the verse Matthew 24:36 now over here in 42. So I give thanks because I'm with the brothers and sisters in the yeshiva right now, and this is what, you know, I just received. This is good because this will further you know, the teachings of and the revelations of the pure language and its relation to the Afro-Shemitic Hebrew, and that Hebrew is, you know, it is a you know, in its form, in the form, even though they say the Masoretic, it belonged to I and I, we could say that actually the form is older than that. That form is older than that, though that in our learning and coming, you know, our comprehension and learning in the Hebrew manuscripts and using the words and understanding the definitions, what we start to see in the style that the black and brown Israel had in the Hebrew is the, you know, the round style, the round, more rounder style. And then, you know, when it is, you know, overgiven or given over to Ashkenaz and the Sephardic and them, they get more of the square style, you know, more of the square style. And those were really, if anything, specific differences. And other than that, then the way that they would, in their language, their pronunciations, you know, the way they would use a ve instead of the we or the wow. They say that, you know, they use a va sound, you know, which is not accurately in the Hebrew, though, you know, if with the good intentions of our people, as you know, with the good intentions of our brothers and sisters, we can understand, you know, if there's a pronunciation problem, then one may just have that, you know, pronunciation problem, you know, though we can still see the relationship with the particles, as we were saying in the language. So, Getachehu bemen sa'at, Indir mita, Atawakumna, Ingidi Niku. Watch therefore, right? Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Adonai does come. But know this, that if the good man of the bait, the Balibate, right? So Yangin Iwiku Balibate had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his home, his bait, to be broken up. Therefore, be you also ready. So here, now we have the readiness is known. So the readiness, and as I said, in tracing this word Selaziyach, the first word in the Adis Kidan, this Torah portion, when we were tracing Selaziyach, it gave us in other particle forms, okay, a first word relation to the meaning of the Torah portion with what here the author is seeking to tell the listener, you know what I mean, or them who truly shema, those who truly hear, in this first word. So Selaziyach Kenana, Selaziyach Kenana. So therefore, in that day come, and therefore is Selaziyach. We did the Yah, so we're gonna have to recorrect that on the WhatsApp. With the first word, so we're gonna put it in there with the Yah, with the Selaziyah, and we had traced that, and so we had a whole new. I have to go back in the notepad because what I had did was, I had actually, we had line by line, word by word, letter by letter. Honestly, letter by letter is the word of Ha Elohim, the breath of the Ha'el. So Selazi, this is what we had did last time. We had formed the particle in 3 letters, so we had highlighted the particle in 3 letters instead of what happened when we were doing this film here. Now we did the Selaziyad. We actually added a letter particle, so, and it gave us another certain definitive in the verses that were related. These 6 verses in the Selaziyad. Very, very interesting for I and I, because the Holy Spirit directed I and I to this in this film right now, in this video right now. I'm gonna give thanks for that in this recording to Orize Lawawiyan 6 and 7. So if we wanted to go to the whole verse and read it out, but before we do that, we don't move to a head, because sometimes that's what we do. There'll be so much information that it can be overwhelming. We may not finish with it, and we don't want to do that. Let us finish with another part, because we've done that before, and it'd be like you drunk. It'd be like, but in a good way. But let's be let's have moderation. You know what I mean? Let's be accurate. This is what we learn from the masters in Israel, that moderation of intelligence. Give thanks and praises to the Almighty Ha Elohim, Jah Rastafari. So let us go back to where we were. And then before we were in Matthew. Let's see. Go back up here to talk. Okay, this is Leviticus. Okay, because we had clicked on that verse. That's why that happened. But before we can even go there, let us go back over here. Let us finish up. Okay, so a lot of time we be going over something, and we have to finish up what we're going over. So let's go back over here to Matthew 24 and it's verse 36, right? Because this is the Torah portion, Matthew 24, verse 36 through 46, the Adis Kidan Selaziach, right? And we will add verse 42. verse 42. And like I said, we now come to the Selaziyad. We've now come to the Selaziyad, you know, and that's God bless. Because as I said, when we did it before, we had only used we had traced the first three particles. We left out the yad. Can't leave out the yad, you know what I mean? Can't leave out the yad. And we had a whole sequence of verses come in there. Now, when we did before we finish up the reading here, when we did the Selazi, because that's what we were showing the brothers and sisters, when we did the Selazi now, and we put the Selazi in, okay, this is what happened. Put the Selazi 872. So you see that difference there, brothers and sisters? Did you just see that? Okay, we're gonna do that again for you, so just so you can see. Okay, let us go get the whole thing now. We're gonna do Selaziyad. Okay, we're gonna do the Selaziyad. Right now, look at the difference in that, and that's why there will be no way that I and I would sit on one platform and deliver you every verse from 872 times that Selazi is found. Though what we can do is we do a round off. We can do a round off. No, though now, this is what makes it distinctly important, and we'll see the intensity of the word in its particles. Now, that particle that we had there before, now yad. Now we'll add the yad. We adding the yad. This is the Selazi, Selazi. You know, but this is the Selaziyad, Selazia, and only 6 verses there. Now see that difference? There was 872 with just 3 of those particles, and we were able to trace that to the word kin. Now that's actually the word that we, if we go back, let us do that first before we go here, because these 6 verses we can actually read. You know what I mean? We can go into each one of these 6 verses. That's not that it's such an extension, and the Spirit, then allows us to go over that portion of where those verses concerning the Selaziyad, and we get to see the distinctiveness in that word. So though if it was the Selazi as it was before, we'd be in 872, and we would have to round it off. And so we'll round it off to the first, usually the first and the last verse that is acquainted with it. There were Selazi, because of the type of particle it is. It's used in so many verses, like in the King James translation was therefore, so as, and such. As a matter of fact, the Hebrew word that it connected with is not necessarily to say the only word. We could not say that, because we have to go through the entire extent of each verse and see, which we will, we will go through many, and we'll find out the relative verses with that. Though we'll get, what we'll do is we'll take the key points, so, and preserve this evidence as evidence that Hebrew is an Afro-Shemitic language of, and it belongs to the black and brown people. And in the study of the pure language of the King of Kings of Christ, the anointed in his kingly character, we are able to find this information, that is hidden from us. You try to hide, you cannot hide this anymore. This is already very well much so known. So we cannot say that it's not ours. We won't be able to say that. So when we trace this word Selazi, and then we go to Genesis 2:24, and we look at Selazi, H3651, right? And so now this was with the Selazi, and we had put this on the app. But remember, we had traced the yad. So we're gonna get a whole. We're gonna get some more information, some more extensive information with the yad on there. God bless, and that will be in our next vid. So this was what we had put out. So we're gonna have to go and put that up there, because we'll see that. Dealing with the 3 particles we didn't need to deal with yet, because we still had the yad to deal with, and we hadn't done that. So that's why we give thanks for this video. God bless. The information is edifying to the gospel. You know what I mean? The building up, the bana, building up of the children, of Jerusalem. So here in this, let us look at the the definition of the word, because we don't want to the Selassie in the three particles we trace to this. Therefore, where you see this here in Genesis 2 and 24, therefore is to ken, and it's age 3559, properly set upright, hence figuratively as an adjective, just but usually as an adverb or conjunction, rightly or so in various applications to manner, time, and relation, often with other particles. After that, this word wards as for as much as yet be, for which, cause, following, how about, and so forth is age 36 and 51, and that was what the three particles have brought us to. So now when we're gonna put the yod in there. I know how to do the yod, the shift Y, you know what I mean? The yod, no. Is that it? Okay, not the shift. Right, let me see. Bring back. Let's see, bring back the yod. You know, the yod, then the judge. Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll undo that, and then we'll just put, oh yeah, with the yod. No, that's not wasn't it. Okay, it's acting up right now, so we're gonna have to put the yod back over here. You know, sleek our brothers and sisters. This is the way, you know, we study. And that's why it's good to write this. I'm gonna have to go back and note this actually, because I haven't noted this just yet. And there's many notes that we have to go over and note. Okay, so those were the 6 verses the yod came up in. Okay, so we trace in the yod here the Selassie, Selasiam, Seladregu, Bedle, Hulu Yakar Yabalal. So Kahinum, Begziabihirfet, Yastasir Yeletal. Yastasir Yeletal. Yes, I. Yastasir Yeletal. Selasiam. Seladregu Bedle Hulu Yakar Yabalal. So, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Yahweh, and it shall be forgiven him for anything of that he had done in trespassing therein. Okay, so Salak. Okay, so now we see here is and it shall be. And it shall be will probably be the equivalent of the KJV. But though you notice here it's not so easily found, they really don't have a word for the Selassie yod in that sense. You know, and that's also what we come to find out when we trace it to only 3 particles as well. It's the same thing. So what it causes us to do is go into the Hebrew as well, and then study and find certain particles in there that are relative, that we can bring things together. So we give thanks for this vid, and we have to go note the Selassie yod now. Give thanks. God bless. Shalom.